Okay, we're ready to get started. And good evening, everyone. My name is Nancy Kroupa, and I just love the Tower Garden. My husband Jerry and I live in northern Michigan, and actually we live on the 45th parallel. And we were actually asked by our company to be part of the test market for this amazing product, the Tower Garden. And let me just say, we did everything wrong to start with. But even in that respect, we still enjoyed an amazing experience that first year with the Tower Garden. I'm going to share a little bit about that story too tonight. So tonight I'd like to give you just a few hints and some suggestions, some things that we've learned along the way to really help you to become the best Tower Gardener ever. In fact, for you to become a Tower Gardener extraordinaire. So these are my top tips. So what does Tower gardening look like to you? Or what does gardening, let's back up here a few years. What does gardening look like to you? Well, this is what gardening looked like to Jerry and me. We had about almost 10 acres, and this was actually a horse paddock that we changed into a garden. We grew even giant pumpkins, and you can see that yard art that one day we got home from work, and someone had played a trick on us and planted this yard art in our garden. But the reason I'm showing you this picture is this also represents to me gardening, bending over, pulling weeds, getting your fingernails dirty, going outside and hoeing, raking, weeding, that kind of thing. It was really a lot of work. And but today we've got the beautiful Tower Garden, and I just want to share my Tower Gardens with you. We have named them Shrek 1, 2, and 3. And these pictures were actually taken about 3 weeks ago. You should see them today. They're just huge. They've doubled in size. And these towers, I have 3 towers. This is on our patio. I planted a whole tower with just strawberries, and they're just starting to produce quite a few strawberries now. And then the other tower is, again, all herbs and tomatoes and all different kinds of vegetables. So those are our Tower Gardens growing today. So let's get started. The first thing you need to do, in my opinion, is to be well educated. And, you know, many of you on the phone tonight have Tower Gardens, and you get the Tower Garden, you take it apart. Some of you either looked at the videos, or some of you actually read the instructions, which was a good thing. But these are some, beyond that, beyond the obvious, these are some of the tips. And I would recommend that you get your whole family involved. In fact, some of my customers, in fact, one family in particular, received their Tower Garden, and by the time the parents got home from work, their teenage sons had already put it all together, and it was full of water and running already. So get the family involved, because it makes it a lot more fun. And I would also recommend that you plant your own seedlings. Yes, there are seedlings available that you can order that are shipped to you in 2-day air process. However, learning to plant your own seedlings, you're really in more of a controlled environment. When you plant your own seeds, you are in control of the type of seed, whether it's non-GMO, organic, heirloom, it's your choice. And so you can be the best seedling grower extraordinaire as well. And so I'm very particular about my seeds, and I grow all my own seedlings. I even grow some for some of my customers because I'm so particular about it. But in any case, that really works out great. And for those of you who have not ordered a Tower Garden, you will wish that you had set up an event, a party or a wine and cheese while you're putting your Tower Garden together. It is so much fun to do it with some neighbors, some family, some friends, and really create an event around that, because it's something brand new that no one else has seen. It's really fun to put together, and it really makes it a lot more fun for you when you're sharing it with others as well. And don't be afraid to experiment. I've grown some weird things like fennel. I've got a picture of it to show you, and some different things that you don't normally think of growing in your tower garden, but it really makes it all about fun. And that's what when I think of the tower garden, I think of all about fun. So you want to educate yourself. And this is just in the last few months, we have a new Tower Talk website. And if you're a customer, hopefully the person that introduced the Tower Garden to you you're part of this Tower Talk, because this Tower Talk is actually at the Tower Garden website. Your supplier of the Tower Garden, they have a Tower Garden website. And if you go to that Tower Garden website, you can, for example, this is my Tower Garden website. You can see my picture is Jerry and Nancy Kroupa on the upper right. You click on Tower Talk, and this is what you see. And for those of you that are not familiar with this, there's so much great information in here. For example, some of you may be related to a school program where you're growing tower gardens in the schools. There's a whole resource center there. And this, if you click here, you will actually be able to see over 30 short YouTube videos that help you get your tower garden growing. Teaches you how to grow seedlings. It teaches you how to prune. It teaches you how to clean the reservoir. It teaches you everything you need to know in short order, and it's just an amazing resource for you. And then this fall, you'll be able to bring your tower garden indoors, and it'll give you complete instructions on how to grow indoors. That is a little bit different than growing outdoors. And then, I don't know about you, but I love my tower garden. I take pictures of it. I go around, you'd think I was pulling out my grandma album, which I do, but also I'm pulling out my iPhone showing pictures of my tower garden. I just love it. It's so much fun. So number 2, let's talk about your water. This is when I've had a customer, they call me and they're having a problem. It's usually the water. There's something with the water that is the problem. And so let's talk about your source of water. You either have city water or well water. Jerry and I prefer to use an RV filter. We went to any one of the stores that sells RV goods. Walmart even sells an RV filter for under $20. And we just filter out the water. We are on city water, and sometimes they flush the lines, who knows, but we have a perfect 6.0 pH when we do that. And so I also would recommend that for well water. Well water differentiates so much, and there's heavy metals in some, and some there's heavier metals. So you definitely want to supply the best quality water as possible for your tower garden, and that RV filter really helps. Is it absolutely necessary? No, but if you're having problems trying to get to the right pH level, it could be the source of your water. So let's talk about pH too. We recommend that your pH is in the range of 5.5 to 6.5. So if you try to hit that mark 6.0, you're in great shape. And we try to maintain the 6.0 in all 3 of our towers all the time. And because of our RV filter, we've kind of gotten the heartbeat of our tower garden. So we rarely today check the pH. However, if you're brand new to tower gardening, you're going to want to check your pH often, because you want to keep that pH as close to 6.0 as possible. Number 3, let's talk about that AB tonic. We use different strengths at different times of the year. And first of all, when you are growing your seedlings, you want to use half strength. In other words, I just put like a capful of the tonic of A and a capful of tonic of the B tonic in a gallon container, and that's just about right to supply water to my seedlings. If somebody would please mute their line, that would be great if you're not muted. Thank you. Let's see if I can check here. Okay, and And then when you plant your brand new seedlings, when you first plant your tower garden, you want to plant your tower garden with 1/2 strength of the A and B tonic again. In other words, you want to use 10 milliliters of each per gallon. And when you think about it, those little seedlings are brand new. They don't need full strength at that point. So that, kind of makes sense. And then when you are, that first time you replenish the water, when it's below 90 degrees, you want to use full strength. So say, for example, you plant your tower garden, you put 20 gallons of water in the reservoir. You're going to put 200 milliliters each per gallon to get started. And then when you replenish the water, you want to use full strength. So say that the water goes down by 10 gallons and you add 10 gallons of water, you're going to want to add 20 milliliters per gallon, or again, 200 milliliters to that replenishment. And then look at the bottom. When you replenish in the hotter months, and I know in Florida and here in Michigan right now, we are experiencing very hot weather. And when it's 90 degrees plus, you want to go back to 1/2 strength. You'll notice that the water dissipates from the reservoir very quickly, and you're adding water almost twice as fast as you normally do. Again, you want to go back to 1/2 or 10 milliliters per gallon, because the plants really don't need that much nutrition when when the water is dissipating. All makes sense, doesn't it? Let's talk about the tower garden environment. Again, you want to position your tower garden where you're going to get at least 6 hours of sun. This tower garden you're seeing here is on our deck. It probably gets 8 to 9 hours of sun a day, and it just grows so fast there. It just loves the sun. The next thing you want to do is make sure it's level. You may not have it on a sturdy ground. It may be on a patio where you have patio blocks or something like this. This is very important, because if it's not level, the water is not going to go on the upward side and water your plants as well as they are on the other side. So you want to make sure that your tower garden is level. And you can do that at the setup when you set your tower garden up. You really don't need to check it again once it is set up and in place. And then you want to turn that tower garden every 2 or 3 days, because as you can see by this tower garden, it's in the shade, right, on the left-hand side. Well, that wants as much sun as the other side does, so you just either swivel the top or you turn it if you have it on wheels. Very easy to do. Let's talk about summer growing, because we are in the summer, and these are some tips for summer growing. This is number 5. And tip number 1, be the bee. Pollination is so important, and if you don't see bees, if you're growing indoors, or if your flowers or immature fruit shrivel up or die, you need to hand pollinate your tower garden. And there's even a video on Tower Talk on how to do that, so I'm not going to go into that tonight. However, you can encourage bees, and I plant a mini sunflower at the top of all my tower gardens. Not only are they beautiful to see, but they also draw lots of bees, which I just love. So I've got that covered pretty much. Tip number 2, prevent pest and plant disease. You can start by purchasing disease-resistant seeds or seedlings. So if you are purchasing seedlings, you want to make sure that they're disease-resistant. And you want to keep your tower garden clean. If you just take a wet rag and go out and clean all the white on your tower garden once a week, it's keeping it clean. And you want to regularly prune back your plants, and you can actually entice beneficial insects as well. For example, if you have, maybe you have a little bug like aphids, for example, you can actually purchase live ladybugs and let them out. They'll eat all the bugs for you. So you can entice them, you can purchase them. And I like to plant a marigold in every single tower garden, and that way I do not get aphids, to begin with. So I just this year I missed the point. I bought new marigolds. I didn't get miniatures like this plant shows. So they're quite large plants. So that would be a hint to look for miniature marigolds, because that does deter bugs in your tower garden. Uh-oh, what happened here? Well, this tower garden accidentally got unplugged in the heat of the day, and the owner was not there. And this is what they found when they got home on their patio. And oh my gosh, doesn't it make your heart just shrink? I mean, you just feel so bad. Well, this is what you do. You, of course, plug it back in. You flip that timer on. So the timer is going, the pump is pumping 24/7. We like to even get the hose and put it on a fine spray and spray it all down, so it's actually being watered from the roots as well as from the flesh of the plants. And look what happens in 2, 3, 4 hours, your tower garden is right back to where it is. So when you think you might have lost everything, here's your tower garden just as beautiful as when you left it in the morning. So you know, don't feel like it's a total loss. Have we lost some plants with this type of thing happening at some point? Maybe we've had to trim some ends of tomato plants off or something like this, but that's it. Number 3, keep cool. When it is really hot like it is right now, you can keep that pump continuously running. That really does help. And we do move that tower garden I showed you on our deck into the shade, which tomorrow it will be in the shade most of the day. We will not leave it in the sun because of the heat on that tower garden. So don't be afraid to move it, especially if you've got the dolly where you can easily move your tower garden. So or even put it in your garage for the day or something like that. Also, for tips for keeping cool in the summer heat, Jerry thought this one up, is to get some liter bottles, fill them with water, do 2 or 3, throw them in your freezer, and then you can just add those frozen water bottles to the reservoir, and that will really help to cool that temperature down inside your tower garden. And you want to keep your tower garden off the ground, so that's another good reason to purchase a dolly if you don't have one already, because the air then circulates underneath that reservoir. And then you can also purchase from our company this weather protection blanket, which is good for the winter or for the cool months, as well as for the stress, the heat stress of the day. Number 4, you can vacation proof. You can connect, and actually this can be ordered from the towergardenstore.com, and you can connect a garden hose and a 1/4 inch drip line to a water timer and run it into the the hole for the tower garden, and it will fill as needed. When the level goes down, it will automatically fill. And the best thing, we did this a few weeks back, and we asked a friend, and well, actually a neighbor, to come and check on our tower gardens, and their payment for checking on it was that they were able to have at our tower gardens and pick whatever produce they needed. And they picked a lot, let me tell you, but it was worth it just to know that our tower gardens were well cared for as we were traveling. And again, monitor those nutrients, check the levels, and you want to harvest often in the summer months. Don't be afraid to harvest, you know, quite a bit of lettuce, that kind of thing, because it will grow back. Again, remember that half tonic when the heat of the day, or the heat, as well as check your water levels every 2 or 3 days, because you'll be surprised. You know, with this 90-degree temperatures, like we filled our towers about 4 days ago, and Jerry just filled them again. So, so you do need to fill them more often. And when you harvest more often, it also prevents bolting. And bolting can be a problem. It may look pretty having flowers growing off your lettuce, but it changes the taste. Your lettuce becomes bitter, and it doesn't obviously taste as good. So you want to replace those spent plants. I had a couple plants. One was a beautiful, today I pulled it out. It had flowers and everything, but it was not producing any zucchini. It was just producing leaves. And I thought, well, I probably got the wrong seeds, but I wasn't going to play with it and wait for it anymore. It was starting to get very viney. I pulled it out and planted a new plant in there. So I always have a few new seedlings growing, especially right now, different lettuces, because the lettuce does, this time of year, it will bolt, the lettuce will get flowers, and it will, you want to replace that with new lettuce plants, as the lettuce on that plant will become bitter. It may look the same and everything else, but I guarantee you won't like it. So you want to pull out that plant, I clean out my net pot very well, and clean the area, and then put the net pot back in and replant it. You can also clean the roots out as well, and I've got a picture of that here, where when you're filling your reservoir and cleaning your pump, you want to check and pull that up, and you can pull out those all those roots, because you don't want it to get into your pump. So in fact, when I changed a couple plants out today, I was able to get inside underneath the net pot and pull out quite a few of those big roots. So it worked out great. Some cold weather tips is we actually here in Northern Michigan put in a 200-watt submersible aquarium heater, and we set it in first part of May, and we set it at 68 degrees. And when it gets really cold, we just use a frost cloth to protect the plants. But we're able to double our growing season at least by doing these two things. And then also some plants, for example, spinach does not like warm weather. So don't try to grow spinach this time of year for sure. So you want to educate yourself somewhat on the different plants and what kind of weather they enjoy as well. So there's a frost cloth, a $10 frost cloth. Just put it around, and this is at my daughter's home, and we just put clothespins on it, and we're good to go. So this was this summer, actually. This is our patio, and I did not want to cover the whole tower garden. And as you can see, it was about 45 degrees, and I was really afraid. For example, basil does not like cold weather. The rest of the plants in my tower garden loves the cooler weather, but the basil does not like it. So I thought, I'm not going to get a whole frost cloth out for that. So I put a Ziploc bag over it, and it worked out just great. I couldn't believe how well it worked out. So I only had to cover just that small little plant. So it worked out well. So number 6, remember, this is gardening. You want to get real, folks. Let's talk about bugs. My husband, Jerry Kroupa. And so let me just start by how do you know if you have bugs? Well, a lot of times you'll see the leaves that have little holes in them. You might have some kind of a bug chewing on your leaves. You may see some plants that have little light green, tiny little spots on them. Those are aphids. You might also see some of the excretion from the aphids that looks kind of shiny on leaves or even on the base of the tower garden. You've got bugs. And how do you treat them? Well, I usually use a couple drops of Dawn in a Windex bottle and go out and squirt it if it's not very much. Then I might use neem oil. I might use Spectracide. There is also on your Tower Talk a really nice recipe to make a really good solution. So I would recommend you check that out on Tower Talk as well. But what happened, and remember, this is gardening, and you can't always be 100% in control. This is just the way it is. You can't sweat the small stuff sometimes. And my kids had gotten me a beautiful rose tree, and it was on our patio. And if you know what a rose tree is, it's a tree, and then it's kind of braided, and then it's in a ball, and there's roses, and it's beautiful. And the roses were coming out. We had planted this tower garden this very first year. It was our very first experience in 2011. And it's in May. And Jerry comes in the house and says, I think we have a little powdery mildew. And I'm just going to spray the rose tree. Well, you have to understand, Jerry Kroupa is certified to sell chemicals to the cherry farmers here in the Grand Traverse area. And his business, they sold almost $1 million a year in chemicals. So he knows all about chemicals. But he went in the garage, he got the Windex bottle, which we all have, and he started spraying, and I could smell death. And I ran out there. I could smell this terrible thing. Well, I watched him kill the tree, and some of the spray went on the tower garden, on the tomato plants. And I was just, I mean, I started crying. I was really upset. But and unfortunately, Jerry had put a little Roundup in a spray bottle to get rid of a few weeds, and that's what he sprayed it with, but by accident. So what we did is we pulled those tomato plants out. We went to the nursery. We got some more. We cleaned the roots very, very, very well. We stuck them in rock wool, planted them, and we had beautiful tomatoes that year. So, you know, when there's a will, there's a way, and just don't sweat the small stuff. So I just thought I'd share that story with you. So how to plant your tower garden? Well, especially if you're a beginner or you're more experienced, don't be afraid to experiment a little bit. But I love this picture because this is how to plant a beginner's tower garden, and it works out so well. And you just look at all this different vegetables and herbs in this little tower garden where it only holds 20 plants. And look at everything you can grow in this tower garden. It's pretty amazing. And you can grow 8 more plants if you have the extension. So isn't that a beautiful tower garden? So again, experiment a little bit. This is fennel, and I love to cook. So these, and my nephew loves to cook, and we really enjoyed cooking this fennel together. I mean, it only did 3 bulbs. I posted on Facebook that I planted fennel, and someone wrote me, "You can't plant fennel in a tower garden, it's a bulb." Well, it is a type of bulb, but it grows above ground. So it was a lot of fun, and look how beautiful it looks at the top of the tower garden. And last year we grew spaghetti squash. Here's one that's 9 inches long. I think we had like, I don't know, I think 12 or 13 spaghetti squash. I didn't plant them this year because we kind of got our full fill last year. I kind of wish I did now, but anyway, they were delicious, and it was really fun to watch them grow, and something a little different that we had normally grown. So let's talk about extending your growing season, specifically growing indoors, and a little bit more. And we have 3 seasons for our towers, but the first part of October, I usually am cleaning up one of my 3 towers, and so I clean it up really great. I've got seedlings ready to go. I bring it indoors. I get it planted because I just miss the lettuce so much. I hate to buy lettuce. I like my own lettuce that I grow, and so I get one growing indoors, and I grow through Christmas, and then we take it down and we go to Florida and we grow a tower down there. So it works out really great. But you can, as I already talked about, that heater, the submersible heater, you can grow. Our friends grow in a greenhouse in Tennessee through the winter months, and of course indoors with the grow lights, which now you can purchase the grow lights from our company as well. I recommend that you clean and you prune and love the harvest. And you know, I just think the tower garden is so beautiful. I think it's a showpiece wherever you have your tower garden placed, and I recommend you treat it that way. You know, you want to prune the suckers off the tower garden as well. And this is a great picture because I missed this. You'll notice there's a V in the tomato plant, and that sucker looks, oh, it's spreading out. It looks very healthy, but that is called a sucker. And a sucker is just that. It sucks the nutrition out of the mainstay of the plant. And it will even grow tomatoes on it, but your plant will not be as healthy. So you want to prune your suckers as quickly as you see them, and you'll have a much healthier plant. Also, a live salad bowl planting is my favorite. And instead of planting 1 or 2 seeds in the whole of the rock wool, I plant 6 to 10, you might say, and that way I've got a very vigorous, very healthy seedling, and I plant that seedling, and when it starts to grow, the outer part of that plant will be, the leaves will get big, and those are the first ones I start to harvest. I harvest the outside of the like a salad bowl, just the outside of the lettuce, and it continues to grow on the inside. And that way you're going to have a very healthy long-term lettuce plant that you'll enjoy many, many harvests from. And it'll be amazing. So enjoy the harvest. So we eat from our tower garden every day, whether it be Greek salads, or I actually froze pesto I made from the basil. And here's a hint: if you put in some spinach or parsley or even Swiss chard, kale in with the basil, just a handful of the first 4 that I mentioned, that it will keep your pesto very, very green long term. It will not turn that kind of brown color that it does seem to do. So that works out great. And I even had extra tomatoes. I canned them. I had tons of dill. I made not only dill pickles, but I made dilly beans with that. And this is like Dr. Jim Hubbard just came off a salad in a jar party, and this is so fun. If you are a busy mom, or right now I'm doing what we call a 10-day shred. I am making up salads in my jars, my ball jars ahead, and putting them in the refrigerator. So I have that ready for me. When I'm hungry, I can eat. It's ready to go. And the salads are absolutely delicious. And with my 3 towers, I started juicing. I enjoy that. Here's some Tuscan bean soup. And this is actually, this stems from this rainbow Swiss chard. I put a little appetizer plate together. And of course we do shakes, and I put my greens for my tower garden in my shakes. So the tower garden, it sizzles, doesn't it? It really is beautiful. And we really hope that you will help us get the word out on the tower garden. It has only been on the market since, well, let's see, for almost 3 years now. And we're really trying to make a difference out there in the world. And the Green Bronx machine with Stephen Ritz, he's doing an amazing job with kids in the Bronx with utilizing the tower gardens as a teaching tool. He was voted one of the top 10 teachers in the world. I'm so proud of him. He had a appearance with the Pope and told him about his initiative to teach children seed to table to entrepreneurship. And he's making such a huge difference. And I think you'll agree that every school should teach gardening in some way, because don't you think that food is kind of important? And that's what we're all about, is making a difference. This is this summer at our local children's garden. They bought a tower garden. I'm teaching, planting seedlings and so forth. And here we're harvesting some different foods and enjoying them. Cass Tech High School, this was, they have tower gardens, teaching in their agricultural science classes. And here's a preschool with their own urban farm. Isn't that fun? Kids making a difference. And this is huge. This is the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Memphis. And because of the success, our company built this facility for them and donated the tower gardens. These boys and girls have learned not only the importance of seed to table, where they're learning culinary skills as well as entrepreneurship by selling what they actually prepare. It's been so successful that the boys and girls have 100% placement back into the community for job placement. I think that's so amazing. And because of that success, our company is donating to the 42,000 boys and girls clubs in North America. They're donating a complete tower garden to every single club. And that's going to affect over 4 million boys and girls. I can't think of a better way to make a difference than to make a difference with the youth in the world. So we are trying to make a difference with your health with the tower garden, your family's health, and I'm sure you share your bounty because the tower garden just knows what to do, right? But you want to help us, please, to get the word out on the tower garden. Who do you know that would love a tower garden? Better yet, help us get the word out to schools and teachers. And this is a picture of Jerry and I, and that's that very first tower garden where he killed all the tomatoes plants. And this was in June, and we had to replant them. And the tomatoes in that bowl are actually from 2 tower gardens. And that was a harvest from that morning, and we decided we had to take a picture. And so we feel that we are outstanding in our field and that we stand tall amongst the best. So I want to thank you all for joining us tonight on this call. And if you have any questions, please get back with the person who invited you on this call. I'm going to stop the recording.